Hey guys, welcome back to the Million Dollar Standard. Today's episode is actually a powerful one for me. I am super excited to dive into this. I am joined today by someone who actually shaped the way that I think about business and money and responsibility and standards long before I ever ran a single Facebook ad or built this company, Million Dollar Marketing. She's actually the founder of a company called Aceco LLC, and she specializes in revenue recovery, helping business owners reclaim the money that they've already earned but haven't collected. And yes, she's my mom. But this is not going to be one of those sentimental mother-daughter episodes. This is a conversation about something a lot of entrepreneurs avoid, which is enforcing payment, protecting their contracts, and plugging revenue leaks before chasing more growth. So we talk about, on this podcast, we talk a lot about traffic. We talk about scaling. We talk about revenue growth. But what's the point of bringing in more leads if you're leaking money on the back end and you're like afraid to go after it? We don't like that. So today we're talking about that, financial standards, honoring our commitments, and the courage that it takes to have hard conversations in business. Mom, welcome.
Thank you very much. Thank you. I'm honored to be here.
And I should let you guys know her name is Lyn Sample, and she's the owner of Aceco LLC, not just mom. So I'll put a formal name instead of my title for her. So, all right, I want to dive right into the core problem here, which is a lot of entrepreneurs, we obsess over growth. We obsess over growing our revenue. But when you come into a company, what are the most common ways that revenue is slipping through the cracks?
Frequently, it's unpaid invoices. It's a customer that consumes services or product and then just ghosted, up and left. So we find entrepreneurs, there's coaches searching their contracts and then searching their souls. Am I worth being paid? Do I go after this? Is this going to be a bad look for me? Does that make me a bad person? Because I want to be paid for the work I produced. So those are the big ones. And waiting too long to launch into the collection mode or recovery mode is a big one too.
Yeah, it makes it more awkward, right? Like
Yeah.
you didn't
Well,
honor this
and so,
commitment 2 years ago.
yeah. And the snowball keeps growing. Snowball
Yes,
effect.
for sure. For sure. Do you think this is more of a systems problem or a courage problem with me, the entrepreneur?
It can be systems. It can be contract. Those are going to be the pitfalls. It's really is an integrity problem, but not on the end of the provider. It's the integrity, honesty, and follow through on behalf of your client, regardless of how nice they are and how much you like them. If they ghost you on what you've earned,
That's an
you
integrity
follow
problem
up.
for sure.
That's
Yeah.
it. I mean, I don't know how to say it nicely, but that is it. So
Yeah.
most unpaid invoices are not a legal problem, though. They're a leverage problem. And that's where I bring leverage, I bring processes, I bring systems. Additionally, I bring me. I step in and I'll handle the difficult conversations. I'll handle the difficult letters or promissory notes. It's what I specialize in. It's what I've done for a very long time. It's not uncomfortable for me at all. And I'd be happy to do it for you. That's
Yeah.
it.
Yeah. And we're going to talk about your experience in this in just a few minutes, because I'm excited to uncover that history for people. Because it's interesting. But I want to first, let's define revenue recovery, because initially when we were kind of working to launch this business for you, because it's so needed and there's such a huge opportunity here, we were calling it's like debt collections, but it's not. This is different. This is revenue recovery. So I want you to define that for me and then talk about like who is revenue recovery for and what exactly are you doing when you step in?
Thank you. We began as debt collection because that's the genre and industry terms that I grew up through. It's what I cut my teeth through. It's what I knew. But that's more like tangible items that were purchased or delivered and not paid for. And that was a much different arena than what we are in now. Now we are recovering the revenue that you have already earned. You've done the thing. You've done the coaching. You've done the consulting. You've done the provided the service. Because I even worked for successfully worked for a midwife. She did the
Mm,
job. She
yes.
birthed the babies. She deserves
Yeah,
to be
there's like
paid.
living, breathing proof of your work,
Yes, yes, yes.
literally.
And so that's who we stand in the gap for. And I literally mean we stand in the gap for you. You've delivered the goods. You deserve to be paid. You didn't go into business to do this. And ignoring the problem doesn't make it go away. But handing the
Yeah.
problem off, or at least bringing me in as your agent, your representative, then we're getting somewhere.
Yeah, and you do some front end things too to protect money that's being earned and then
Mhm,
also recovering when for
mhm,
whatever reason either they don't have the protections in place or people ignore that out of a lack of integrity. It gets ignored and they do the unwanted behavior anyways and then,
mhm,
either do a chargeback or they just quit paying or they don't ever pay or
mhm.
whatever. Essentially, this is revenue recovery. Like it
Right,
sort of defines itself in the
right.
term. So you have a lot of authority in this space, whether you like to admit it or not. You're so humble about it. But I remember you hearing or you telling me about like awards that you've earned or like recognition that you got or even a title that was given to you. So you did this for nearly 30 years, like my growing up years. You did this in a brick and mortar company or a couple of companies before stepping into the online business space. What did that look like? And how did decades in credit and collections like teach you about accountability and relationships? Like, let's dive in.
Okay. Well, I spent over 25 years in credit and recovery roles for lumber companies, meaning, we delivered the truckload to build the house or the windows or the whatever. I mean, it was all of it. And there was there was always a payment plan in place. We invoice monthly and the ebb and flow of the money for building a home versus delivering for building a home are two different pathways. So there is some patience needed, and so we would work with builders, but then there were times that I knew for a fact they were receiving money but not forwarding it to the lumber company. And quite honestly, I had to make the calls, I had to make the determinations, I had to file the paperwork. I had to answer to others above me as to why is this account not paid? Why is this account is it secured? Have you secured it? I had to answer those hard questions and it taught me a lot. It taught me a whole lot. So, and I bring all of that history and knowledge and performance and integrity to what I'm doing now, just not brick and mortar anymore. I'm not chasing builders and working for a lumber company. I'm working online across the nation,
Yeah.
helping entrepreneurs
Yeah.
get paid.
And
Yeah.
and even in my case, like I have an unpaid invoice or a broken contract where, you and I are local together. We live in the same
Mm-hmm.
area.
Mm-hmm.
But the person that signed the contract is in a different state, and so we're working on all of that. So the
Mm-hmm.
logistics with that and the, communications and everything is just something that you're handling for me, and it's such a load off my plate. And, recovering some of it is so much better than recovering none of it
Right.
and not having to carry that mental load of like feeling like I'm chasing after bad money. Like, I'm
Right.
using my good
Right.
energy to chase after bad debt. I can hand that off and not have
Yes.
to have those
Yes.
conversations.
Yes.
So the another interesting little fact I remember is didn't the county register of deeds have a nickname for you because
Yes.
you were something?
My tenacity and my frequency of being in there, because the way you secure building materials or, protect the lumber company for which I worked is you had to file a lien. And the lien stayed there until the job was done and the builder had paid off the full amount. So I was in the Register of Deeds office. This is long before we could do everything online, which we're doing now nationwide, state to state, man. We've got it covered. But I would have to go to the county building and file those liens. And I was in there enough that his team dubbed me the lien queen. And whether it was meant for good or not, I wore it like a crown because I'm not ashamed of the job that I do. It was very necessary and I did it with honor. And I still do my work with honor.
Yes. Yep, I've seen that and I've experienced. And actually that's a really good statement to bridge us into the next question because you did build a reputation around recovering that money while maintaining the relationship. So, how do you enforce money or like hold people to a standard without burning the bridge?
One word: dignity. You
Mm,
protect their dignity because if they have been so annihilated, they, the debtor, they, the builder, they, the whomever owes you money, if we annihilate their dignity, do you think they're ever going to want to be a customer, a client, or a friend again? No. A lot of these people have come into their own hard time. They didn't mean to do what they did. Some of them might have, but by and large, most
yeah.
people do not intentionally. So you protect their dignity to the point where they are willing to pay. Most are. I've not come into too many that are just, ghost us all the way out. We have the steps and the processes in place and the leverage, and we treat them with dignity, honor, and respect. Little side note, one of my recent collections recoveries that I've done, and it was a connection that I made from Jodi. She tossed an account my way. We handled the collection. It went from demand letters to small claims court to a signed promissory note to paid in full, the agreed amount. It was just under $20,000. After it was paid in full, I reached out to the debtor of this and I said, I would work the same for you with the same intentionality, with the same poise, with the same respect and honor. And it just happened to turn out that she did have a collection that she needed, and she signed contract with me.
That is unreal. Like, that is I remember when you told me about that, and I was like, "You have got to be kidding me." Like, the fact that not only did you handle that so well that that person went through and honored and paid, but then they also chose to hire you for their own bad debt. It does beg the question, though, like, man, if you've got bad debt and you don't like how that feels, then why are you operating that way, right? Like,
We don't go
that's
there.
another conversation, I
Yeah,
think, but
yeah. We didn't
yeah,
go there.
yeah.
We moved forward.
Well,
What
good,
do you
though.
do?
That's still holding that frame of dignity, right? Like,
Mhm,
instead of you
mhm.
questioning her behavior, that person's behavior, you didn't. You went ahead and supported her in recovering.
True story.
So, you've said before that some of the hardest calls that you've ever had to make, picking up the phone or writing the letter or writing the email, made you shake in your boots a little bit. What builds the courage to lean into those conversations anyway?
Well, I am a muscle memory for me. It was knowing what to do, what to say, have the processes, know my position, carry no shame of what I'm doing because I'm standing in righteousness, either for the lumber company or for the coach or client or whoever my client is. I'm standing in righteousness. I do require all the evidence of how did we get here. And once I know all of the evidence is pointing to your story is straight up truth, then we proceed. So when we proceed in truth, honor, and dignity, there is no shame. And I don't mind having those hard conversations because they're not personal, and and I don't know. It's for the greater good.
Yeah. I've actually talked a lot on this podcast or even like conversations with my kids about leaning into discomfort as a growth edge, right? Like it's something that when you do it, there's no choice but to grow from leaning into discomfort. And it's something that, we have an opportunity to do every day, something of leaning into that discomfort in order to grow. And it sounds like you have been doing that like your whole career. On top of, I've seen you do it even personally. And I appreciate that because I think that set a really good example and standard for me as a human being is to learn into discomfort as an edge for growth. So thanks, Mom. All
Gotta be
right.
me.
So on this podcast, I talk a lot about what I call the $1 million standard. So holding yourself and other people to commitments. So, from your perspective, what happens when business owners avoid enforcing financial agreements?
Well, whether they know it or not, they end up carrying emotional baggage because you know what your bottom line is and what it should be. You know what you've produced and you know what you're owed. And then you know that you're ignoring it, that it's gone on the back burner, maybe in your to-do list, but not in your mind. You're carrying that, and to show up for your current clients and your current work, you want to set that baggage down. And why not? Set it down to someone that is experienced and successful and willing to not only bring in the revenue that you've already earned, but to do it with grace and poise and honor to support your process and what you are building. We don't destroy relationships. In fact, that's one of the questions I ask when I'm onboarding. Do you wish to retain this relationship? Do you want to continue working with this client or customer or whomever? And it doesn't change a lot of the way I proceed, but it
Right.
does let me know maybe how far or how hard I can push. But
Right.
like I said, it all begins with evidence. So what I'd like to say is the very first thing I need to see is your contract, because the
Uh-huh.
contract is what is binding and what tells us how far we can go, what we can include. And then we have to know where the contract is based. What is your jurisdiction? Because that tells us where we go in the courts and how we proceed and what dollar amounts are on the table. And
Yeah.
yep.
Yeah. And that's interesting for our listeners to hear is that it's not just. And you're not even you're not an attorney. So there's like certain containers that you can operate in
Yes.
and you don't cost as much as an attorney, let's be real.
Mm-hmm.
And there's certain things that the client still must do on their own because you are not an attorney. So it becomes like this partnership and you operate together. And
Mm-hmm.
I can say this because I've experienced it myself. And it has been just a beautiful partnership, great communication, and I've successfully recovered money. So that's good too. I'm going to tighten this up a little, or sorry, I'm going to lighten this up a little bit with some rapid fire questions. So
Okay.
I did warn you that this was coming, but I didn't tell you what I was going to ask. So
No,
first
I
thing
don't
that
have
comes
a
to
clue.
mind. It'll be fun, I promise. Hardest call you ever had to make.
Probably the ones going way back to my early days before there was online everything. Like the 6 a.m. phone calls that I used to get up and make before I made the coffee to catch the builder before he went out to the field. You may not even know that I did that, but
I
it was
didn't.
a strat
I was probably still sleeping.
it was a strategy that I came up with on my own, because when a builder's out in the field, they didn't all used to carry cell phones. If I didn't catch them at home or in their office, how else am I going to pin
My
them to the
goodness.
wall to pay their bill? So yeah, I started making calls in the morning beforehand, and those first few were a little bit scary because you don't know what you're going to get at 6 o'clock in the morning. But we got
Yeah,
through it.
but you leaned into discomfort.
I did.
You did it. You did the hard thing and then you developed the muscle memory. And then when you were done making those early morning phone calls, you would come into my room and say, "It's time," and wake me up for school.
It's time. Time to wake
It's
up.
time. Okay. Most common excuse you hear when someone hasn't paid.
I meant to. I will. I really wanted to. It's all based in feelings and intention and no follow through. It
Ugh.
doesn't matter what the excuse or the reason is. And we don't linger there. We make a plan, we execute a plan, we put our plan in writing, and we have it notarized. And how do
Yeah.
you do that? across the country and from state to state. We use an
I see.
online notary service.
Nice. Virtual notary.
Hmm.
Love it. All right. Question number 3. What's one trait that I had as a kid that screamed future entrepreneur? Even if we didn't realize it then, like looking back, you're like, aha.
Wow, now you've really stumped me. You and your sister are so far different from each other.
Yes.
Probably
And for those that don't
your
know, my sister, she's a homemaker, stay-at-home mom, wife, and
extraordinaire.
she does that role, yes, extraordinarily well. And we are so different in our careers and our career paths and our life and everything. So I feel like I should apologize. I don't know why.
I would say it's your sheer determination and your need or your requirement for excellence.
Mm,
Yeah, those two for sure, for starters, but there's always sub assets underneath the surface. But yes, you're very determined and you strive for and achieve excellence.
I didn't academically, I will admit that, but like in sports, I did.
School's so
Maybe
overrated.
maybe now that we think about that too, that, I didn't really fall in line with the regular school model very well either, so
To your
alright,
to
okay, next question. I'm so glad I didn't warn you about these. What did you worry about most when I started a business? When I was like, "Mom, starting a business, doing my thing."
fear of the unknown is the very worst for me in across the board. But that was a huge unknown. The online, you can't hold it. You cannot hold an online position or a job and you can't see it. It's like she's putting faith in smoke signals, it sounds like. I mean, it was early. You were early into this, and I was still brick and mortar for another 10 or 15 years after
Yeah,
you started. And
yeah.
the unknown for me is very unsettling. And how is it going to work? I don't know how it's going to work. So
Well,
the
your
unknown.
mother, my grandma Kramer had her fears about that too. Well, even like the entrepreneur thing, right? Because there's a few of us in the grandkids family that have, our own businesses, and it was I don't know,
Mm-hmm.
is that really gonna work?
Right.
On
Right.
top of that, I do remember those questions like, "Have you filed your quarterlies? Do you even know what you're doing?"
Right. Right. Don't let Uncle Sam get a hold of you.
Uh-huh, uh-huh. I don't know who Uncle Sam is. All right.
He's not your uncle.
One piece of advice for entrepreneurs and one for your daughter.
Piece of advice is don't let it go too long and don't carry shame over someone who has not paid your bill. If anybody's going to carry the shame, it's their shame. So don't carry it for them. Don't be afraid to reach out to me and just have a conversation.
Yes.
I shoot well from the hip. I'll listen to your story, maybe send me some online details. And I'm going to add to that document, document, document. Make sure that your structure is firm, that there's no loopholes. And a piece of advice for you.
Don't make me cry.
Well, that's a two-way street. And I'm going to say continue leaning into your strengths, both in the gym, in the marketing, and in motherhood. But don't forget whose path you follow and who puts the light upon your feet and who guides your every step and has you in the palm of your hand. And that's your Savior and mine, Jesus Christ. Yeah.
Okay, you did it.
Sorry.
You're
Turnabout
not.
star play, right?
You're not sorry. Okay. Revenue recovery is not about being aggressive. It's actually about honoring the work that you've already done. It's about closing gaps. It's about protecting what you've built. And if you're listening to this and you know that there's money sitting in overdue invoices or weak contracts or uncomfortable conversations that you've been avoiding, this is your nudge. So growth is not just on the front end, it's also in tightening up the back end, the systems, the policies, the follow throughs. And if someone wants to learn more about you, Mom, Lynn, Aceco LLC, or connect with you, where can they find you?
They can find me on Facebook, LinkedIn, or Instagram under Aceco LLC. You can email me, and maybe Jodi will drop a link. Front desk, one word, front desk at aceco.llc. So
Love that.
I'm pretty
And
easy to
we're going to
find.
link. Sorry, go ahead.
I said I'm pretty easy to find.
Yes.
What do you
Yep. And
know?
if you find me, you'll find her as well. And we're going to make sure that we link everything in the show notes. You'll find the links somewhere around this video. And as always, if this episode resonated with you, I want you to share it with another business owner who needs to hear it, because raising the standard in business starts with conversations like this. Thank you so much for listening to the $1 Million Standard, and I will see you next week.